This is our second installation of Red Zone Politics, the News Zone, and today we're going to be talking with members of Gen X and Y for a change. In today's show, we continue our discussion of the presidential election campaign between the Democratic ticket headed by Barack Obama with Vice Presidential nominee Joe Biden and the Republican ticket headed by John McCain with VP pick Sarah Palin. Jason Epstein has worked in Democratic politics for nearly a decade on campaigns, in the nonprofit sector, and in consulting. He is Jewish, from California, a fiscal hawk, and affiliates himself with the growing and influential Blue Dog Coalition of the Democratic Party. Nicole Cutts is the CEO of Cutts Consulting, an organizational consulting firm that specializes in well-being, and she is also a professional artist. She has a PhD in multicultural clinical psychology, has published several articles on race and gender issues, and is a Democrat from Maryland. Ryan Baroni is a white, single, childless, middle-class, 30-something male from the suburbs of the Midwest. He is also a veteran with more than 2 years of experience as a military congressional affairs officer. As the world's smallest political quiz indicates, he is a centrist, liberal, libertarian. He also gets gold stars for having read Democrats in the Red Zone, my book, with relish. This week, Americans watched the only vice presidential debate of the 2008 season. We will get our guest take on that debate and discuss the Obama-McCain debates and other pertinent issues. Let's get to the substance of the debate because, of course, Palin and McCain know that part of her charm is that she is supposed to come across as unpretentious on purpose.
One in this debate, there was no substance. Neither candidate, Biden or Palin, discussed the issues or answered the questions that really needed to be answered.
Which questions need to be answered?
I do want to know whether Obama's going to raise taxes sky high. I want to know what McCain's going to do in order to balance the budget. I want to know what's going to happen with this huge fiscal problem that we have in this country.
Isn't it folly for candidates to specifically say what they're going to do as opposed to what they want to do? Especially on the issue of taxes, which everybody agrees is the quote-unquote third rail of politics. For some bizarre reason, that we have a national obsession with taxes.
The Senate and the House and the President just signed yesterday a bill that gives the Treasury Department $700 billion. Now, just like any average American, I'm sorry, $700 billion is a little bit too much for me to stomach, especially when the government and Wall Street together that's screwed up.
The candidates didn't really address that, probably because both of their principals voted for the thing, so they probably weren't trying to bring it up.
Yeah, and I'll preface this by sounding like John McCain. I'm not an economic expert by any stretch of the imagination. It's voodoo to me. But I opposed it. I actually sent letters to my congressman, Jim Moran, and Senators Warner and Webb, as somebody who looked at that and said, you know, we bailed out. Well, who did we let go? Lehman Brothers was the one that was allowed to fail. But what did we bailed out Bear Stearns, a month and a half ago, and then, okay, well that was supposed to be the end, and hopefully that was going to fix it. And then there was the next bailout, and there's the next bailout, and the next bailout, and now $700 billion. This is even a number I can't even wrap my mind around, and I don't know how it's going to be applied, and I don't think either one of the candidates understood how it was going to be applied either.
What this is going to cause is it's going to cause inflation. The dollar's going to drop in value again, which is already low. It's already, the euro is outperforming the dollar.
It was up yesterday. The dollar was up yesterday.
Yes, it was, but do you think it's going to be up after $700 billion is printed?
I was really impressed with Joe Biden's performance. I saw him as a seasoned statesman. I thought that he answered Gwen Eifel's questions very succinctly. I know there was some concern that he might tend to go on. I didn't see any of that. I think he stuck to, the main points and rebutted Governor Palin's statements with a lot of facts, and I was glad that he was strong about that.
The debate actually went exactly as I expected it to. I didn't think Sarah Palin was going to implode, and I didn't think Joe Biden was going to have his foot in his mouth. I think he did a little bit better. I think he understands the nuances of the Senate votes better, having been there a lot longer, and could talk more. He could break apart the arguments a little bit better about, well, he voted for this, and, da-da-da-da-da. Well, nobody went into the details of what amendment made the vote go a positive vote. And then, it was very effective in tying, an Obama vote to a McCain vote for the exact same thing when Sarah Palin was trying to differentiate between the two.
How did Governor Palin come across to you as a voter, as a woman, all of the above?
Okay. Frankly, I'm just going to be honest. I was a little disappointed that she was a different Governor Palin than she had been in the Katie Couric interviews and other things that I had seen.
What do you mean?
Well, she was a bumbling idiot during the Katie Couric interviews, and I was hoping that she would continue that performance, but I knew that she was known to be a good debater, and I think that she did a fairly good job of debating, but at the same time, it was apparent that she was still sidestepping several questions. She patently refused to answer some of the questions. One example would be, when Gwen Ifill asked the sort of typical job interview question of what's your Achilles heel. She didn't even do the clever thing of starting off with her Achilles heel and then turning it into an asset in some way. She just patently ignored that question.
Sort of an Achilles high heel.
She maybe she didn't know the meaning of the word, but she went into talking about all of her record and how great she was and everything that she had done. And when it was Senator Biden's turn to answer that question, he acknowledged what Gwen had advanced as his possible Achilles heel, being undisciplined, and then he went on to talk about, what he thought his possible weaknesses were, but also talked about what his strengths were.
I watched the Republican convention as I watched the Democrat convention, and as a veteran, former military officer like John McCain, I understood that what he was trying to portray. I was actually swayed by John. Like, I think, I honestly believe the guy. Like, I put my country first. Look at, I've sacrificed. I've done these things. This is the kind of person I am. And I was kind of like, oh well, that's a pretty good PR campaign. Having been a former PR and congressional affairs person, I understood that. But as soon as he picked her, I knew I wasn't going to vote for him. I would have at least considered, had he picked somebody like a Tom Ridge or Rob Portman, who I actually thought he was going to pick.
I'm putting myself in the place of the average voter, including myself. I have a limited amount of time on my hands to ingest deep policy questions. This is where I think Palin had something of an advantage in the debate just perceptually, because she knows that voters only have a limited amount of hard disk space up there in their brains to ingest this stuff. What do you think about where we're going here with this?
Yeah, I think she's better at the quick soundbite, selling it well, and not allowing it to get actually broken down and digested.
Democrats have a tendency to try to explain the whole darn thing to us. Mm-hmm. And as Ryan just indicated, Republicans tend to do better with breaking it down into short, simple sound bites that most people can digest.
I thought they both did well. That's not, to me, that wasn't the issue. But I don't think that it's okay to just let Joe Biden off the hook.
What I think in terms of how the Democrats could improve their message, break it down, yes, but along with those facts, put some facts in the sound bites. What I feel like Palin did was sound bites that were concepts that I didn't hear a whole lot of facts in. I heard we want to win, I heard reform, I heard words, buzzwords, but I didn't hear the plan.
In the vice presidential debate, I can't say that either of them swayed me in any direction whatsoever. I'll throw it out there right now. I am voting for Obama, but the reason I'm voting for him is not because I like him or because he represents this change message, which I personally don't think is... I think it's baloney. And that's a message of a primary. That's not a message of a general election. Look, John McCain's not a rubber stamp for George Bush, but his policies are far too similar to George Bush's, and that is why I'm voting for Barack Obama.
I'd like to have seen 2 debates, because I think we could have covered half of those topics and then the other half in the other one, and then Joe Biden, I think, could have done an even better job than I think he did do of parsing the details of, Sarah Palin's, glancing generalities, which she sells very well. She's got a background in PR, and what is news? News is breaking it down, being very simple, and selling it in between commercial breaks.
Right, and she was a sportscaster too. So
exactly.